Hello there folks, welcome to my YouTube channel, a place where I discuss different topics on spirituality, sociology, dream interpretation, introspection and other topics that people might find, well, more or less challenging, difficult or whatever way to answer, or they're simply not ready to answer them but they require an extra interpretation, which is something that I'm always ready to give, although not always when people want. Okay, now everything that I provide is part of my introspection, part of communicating with the universe and the answers that I receive, so don't rush in taking these for granted. Now the topic of this video will be the idea of the cuntvirus, and as you well may have known, being from a country called Romania, why it happens that Romania is apparently the country which is the most cuntvirus infected, and apparently it's been closed on by all the borders were closed for Romania by most, if not all, the countries in Europe, probably in the whole world. It is because of so-called alarming great numbers of these reports. Now, why this happens is probably gonna be a bit shocking or infuriating. The reason is, well, a bit tricky one, and I assure you it is called corruption one way or another, irrespective of whatever you want to take it. Now, to give you a bit about the Romania country background, in terms of economy, Romania is a country that is, let's say, mediocre in terms of power. However, the population, especially in the southeastern part of the country, is in numerous cases almost brain dead, in the sense that it's completely lacking any idea of self-awareness, and they're like even below survival. And I'm specifically talking about the southeastern part because, well, I happen to know it much better than the other parts, and it's, I could say, the where the hillbillies stay. Okay, and now I'm not gonna generalize, okay, but there is a large number of people there who they are very much like NPCs in a video game. Okay, they just mind their own business, they don't talk to anyone else, and it's just that they prefer sticking to the two or three things that okay, I just came from a night shift, so okay, so they just stick to their own ideas, they just do the things that they know. So the Moldavia part and part of the eastern part of Muntenia, which would be the northeastern, eastern and southeastern part of Romania, are represented by such people, especially the Moldova part. And I'm not speaking about the Republic of Moldova, I'm speaking about Moldova, a Romanian part, okay, a region in Romania. That is the place where the laziest people are considered to be. Now, the point about this outbreak is, I said it from the beginning, that it's gonna be so faked, it's gonna be so huge numbers. But from the beginning I said one thing, and I said that to all my co-workers: I really doubt the fact that this cunt virus actually exists in our country. Okay, like, considering how filthy some of the hospitals can actually be, how inhumane some of the conditions, okay, for patients and for medics as well, are in those hospitals, specifically because they are not given the necessary funds to have healthier boundaries, right, to have healthier interiors, that this virus, okay, simply cannot exist. We already have a lot of viruses in those hospitals, and I told everyone literally, if this new virus comes in, they will have to pay protection tax or whatever it's called, okay, because it's gonna step on the territory of other well-adapted, well-adjusted viruses in our hospitals. Those big old viruses, flexing their muscles, right? If the coronavirus would come in any of our hospitals, it would be just like a new prisoner getting into a cell of veterans, and it's like, who the fuck are you? Okay, like, this is our territory, punk, right? So leaving the puns aside, okay, I really doubt that this cuntvirus actually exists in our country. Now, probably you don't know this, but there is actually this point, okay? There is no cure yet for the cuntvirus. Now, there are 12 main stems, it is said, each affecting separate parts of the body. And as great luminous minds have said, like people with years or decades of experience in virusology and medicine in general, they said this definitely is a virus that was man-made, because no natural virus is so capable of adjusting itself so swiftly. And of course, to all people who may not believe, well, it's up to you to believe this or not. Those people know what they're saying. But there is actually a big question that I wanted to ask. Why is it that, especially in my country, I don't know about other countries, but it's why is it that in all countries or most countries there are only politicians speaking about the disease? Especially in my country, there's only politicians that get on television and they say things, but no medic ever appeared in there. And in the USA, right, only Bill Gates seems to appear on television and say that, hey, we are working on a vaccine, which is never ever gonna appear, and we're doing this, we're doing that. The vaccine will never appear for the COVID, because countries will probably create their own, and they will try to cure their population. Secondarily, the point about this is the coronavirus is only a control tool. Ever since it appeared, everything is on lockdown, everything is down, and it's all about the rights of the people. Just forget about the disease, it really doesn't matter. But the very simple point is this, okay? It really doesn't matter, okay? The point is all about this. Ever since this appeared, it was the best excuse, for governments and the such to start munching on your freedoms, right? You are no longer allowed to go out without a mask, and the face mask is only representative of your freedom of speech being taken away, which you can actually see it more and more. Several years ago, probably 10 years ago, there were so many YouTube creators that would create literally everything they wanted, and then slowly and surely the masses were programmed with stupid ideas, specifically for people with low self-esteem, for people who like compliance and suffering, social justice, and all sorts of other things. You're not allowed to say that, because it's like you're not favoring a minority, but minority means already pushing people away, classifying them, dividing them by such concepts. So if I'm not allowed to say, I don't know, a certain word, that's actually like promoting a certain division, because if I can't say a certain word, you are actually building that meaning, okay? And people accept it, because a meaning only exists as long as you accept it, okay? If you are a black person, okay, you'll only be affected by someone calling you a nigger because you're actually having a negative connotation towards that word. It doesn't matter, it's just a word, okay? It's just a word. And if someone is, there was a very short Buddhist story about someone, swearing at a very great illustrious master, right? The Buddha himself, Gautama actually, because Buddha is a title, and Gautama would just sit there, and the monk belonging to another cult, he would again and again and again insult him. And when he was over, he actually asked Gautama Buddha, how is it that you're simply not affected by my swears? Like, I've been swearing you so much. And he said, well, you see, it's all about acceptance, okay? I haven't accepted anything of what you've told me, right? It's like you want to give someone money. If you want to give money to someone and they don't want it, okay, where's the money gonna stay? It's gonna stay with that person, right? Because the other person didn't want to take it. Just like in this case, I simply didn't accept or take anything of what you said. So all the swears only stood with you. Now you have to forgive yourself for having said that, because most likely you will regret having said all these if you don't forgive yourself, right? I don't need to forgive you because I didn't accept anything, right? You didn't harm me because I didn't allow it. So it's the same thing with meaning, okay? All the meaning is something that you accept in your mind. So Now to quickly go back to the topic, in Romania there is this policy, okay, which I'm sure it is in most other hospitals, okay. Ever since this outbreak started, hospitals were actually paid a huge sum to stay closed, so that, this is, I heard rumors about this in different other countries, and most hospitals would just stay closed. Only a very small part of those would be operational, and it would be clumped up, and patients would be kept together in very poor conditions, and when the press would come they would film specifically that. You have to understand that all these people are nothing else than the NPCs. Whatever the system says, namely the matrix, is nothing else than what they will be doing. You just have to understand that life is a game. Now, people actually did this in the United States, for example. They entered so-called illegally in hospitals and took recordings saying, hey, you know what, this hospital is actually empty, there is no COVID person, and some of the recordings were actually caught with them, some actually managed to stream them online, but YouTube actually started banning those, and it is said if you use videos that have COVID and 5G in their name, that video is most likely gonna be banned, or certainly banned. Many of these videos were banned, and many people say that these authorities are actually banning stupid things, but it's like, since when stupid things have been banned? Like, look at the music. There is so much commercial music, and that's more or less stupid in a way because it's dumbing you down. Now the point is that thing banned? No. Is everything else banned, like classical music and music that is actually good? Well, it's not banned yet, but considering the explosion of commercial music, it's like, in a way it's kind of banned, because everything is gonna be fully loaded with all this commercial junk that is dumbing down the population, and specifically the youngsters, because these are the ones, if you corrupt those, the next generations will be corrupt as well. That is why you have a sick society. Children born in a sick society most likely will end up somewhat sick as well. Moving even further, the point is very simple. You will actually, let's go back to the topic. So hospitals have been closed, huge sums of money were paid to them to specifically do this. In our country, like, almost each and every television program was given around, I don't know, a huge sum of money in terms of millions of dollars to specifically keep talking about the coronavirus. It's called predictive programming, which means they're programming you for something in the future that when that happens you're going to accept it as normal. That is why so many people now accept the masks as well, it's just something normal. And especially in Romania there is something called the Mioritic curse. You can actually read it, it's called Miorița. You can write it with a T instead of Ц, because Ц is a T with a little comma below that. It's specific to Romanian alphabet, and well, other countries may also have that, but it's not written in the same way. So the point about this, if you read about that, you'll discover why this country is cursed with probably the most compliant people in the whole world. You'll never ever find more compliant people in the world than in here. Now most of them, or many of them, okay, not all, but okay, so these hospitals were like this, okay, they were paid like this. Now I heard a lot of rumors from, and actually they're true, from a lot of people that have knowledge, have worked in hospitals even, and while I don't have any palpable truth, I bet you can actually understand that this also may happen in your own country. That is why the huge number of so-called outbreaks. Now in my country, if you choose to I don't know who you contact for that, but some people can actually go and they sign a contract and they say, okay, I'm gonna go in hospital for a week or something like that. I'm gonna pose as COVID, as being sick of COVID, right? And they're gonna get 1,000 euros. I don't know if they can actually do that more than once, but the point is they sit in hospital for a week and they get 1000 euros. Now Romanian hospitals get around 8000 or something like that euros for every patient that is that has COVID. So the point is the medics, the corrupt staff gets most of the money, the patient gets a bit, and they get a whole lot of money. Now the question is, when the pandemic began in our country, okay, they would lie that there's 500 new infections, okay, and this number has been slowly increasing by the day. Now there's like 1400, and it's like very funny. Like it's like initially it was 500, and almost 2 months later now it's 1400, and this number slowly increases by the day. Now it's 1450, tomorrow is gonna be 1470. Like a few days ago it was 1300. Okay, they always increase this, and they present this as being the per day, okay, and everyone believes this. I'm guessing that this is the actual number instead of new cases per day, because dude, it's like if you have 1000 cases by the day, these simply don't like an infection never spreads like you have 1000 infected people and then you have the next day another 1000. If 1000 people get infected, a million people may be actually infected, because those people actually will interact with other people, okay, and those people can actually interact with other people. And the idea of face masks is just to make you suffer, okay? You have to really dig this into your mind. If you ever get to see where these face masks are created, okay, these are created in non-sterile environments in India and China, okay, where people work in the most miserable conditions, and many of those videos were actually banned, again, because they're hiding the truth. But you have to understand that if you ever read the package of those masks, which usually is not shown to the public, the package itself says these face masks don't protect you against viruses. So the question is, why do you actually have to wear a face mask, and why do you have to be fined for that? Because if you are fined for that, the money will just go into more and more research, because that's what governments are doing. You have to understand that the governments are actually a worldly organization that control each and everything of the population. You have to understand that society never cared for people, so why now suddenly everyone wants vaccination? There will be so many people who will offer for vaccinations, and some people will die because those vaccinations actually don't do anything else than preparing you for the outbreak of 2021. There will be one in there. There will be an outbreak in 2021 as well, and most likely there will be one in each and every year, but there will be a new one in 2021 for sure, COVID-20, or probably it's no longer gonna be coronavirus, but I bet you there will be another such explosion in the next year. There will be even more outbreaks, and there will be more restrictions, because all these things are calculated, have been calculated and thought for like 40-50 years before, okay? And if you look around, there have been numerous sources that presented you different things. Even Bill Gates himself said a long while ago that there will be a massive outbreak that will decimate at least a third of the population. And why is it that this Bill Gates always and how come that he suddenly has so much knowledge on the idea of medicine? Oh yes, maybe many people will say, but yeah, he has a lot of money, I'm sure he's paying a lot of medics to give him the ideas. But the question is, why don't you let the medics instead speak the truth, okay? Like, why do you actually have to come yourself? Like, up till now no one knew about Bill Gates, because he is usually what is called a silent rainmaker, okay? He's making things, but he doesn't appear too frequently on television. Probably every now and then, at local shows or something like that, but you never saw him, fighting so desperately for something like this. Now apparently some big forces are giving him the power to coordinate different other things. Probably Soros or others are giving him the power, but let's not get into constipational theories, okay? Now at the same time, in Romanian hospitals, it happens that when a person dies in there, okay, the family is contacted, and the family is given 2000 euros if they want. They sign the contract and they say, hey, this person actually died of COVID, but I'm sure they will actually fake the results, like Nowadays in Romania, if you die of anything, you have died actually of COVID, okay? Because it's more money for the system. And again, it's the very simple point that all I can say is this. The simple point is this COVID outbreak, okay, is only gonna make a lot of money for certain people, and there will be so much more money without the cure, because you have to understand society only wants pain from you. Just look around. So many sick people that you see, so much abuse, so much trauma. It's all because of abuse that has existed throughout countless centuries and millennia in society, because no one has actually taught people how to behave, how to raise their children correctly, and everyone lives in forms of sociopathy and or narcissism because this is what society breeds. Just look around. You have narcissism on social media. Everyone posting their fake lives. Well, most, not everyone, but so many people. And this thing will actually start decreasing more and more because people are kind of waking up, okay? All this outbreak is nothing else than, a stage that has to be gone to help the population wake up, okay? The population has been sleeping for so long, and unfortunately the time is due. We're kind of a bit behind with the waking up, but people are waking up, don't worry about this. So all these huge numbers that you see on television and why Romania is so hugely infected, okay, you will see a lot of news with people clumping up and piling up in the seaside, and we have been believing this for so long. But there have been people, even at my workplace, that went to the seaside, okay, and what you see on television with thousands, like almost millions of people flocked in there, those are images of the older times, okay, last year, several years. The local people, okay, since it's a whole mafia on there as well, like on the seasides there have been these, I can't call them mafia organizations, but they're just some dudes who literally took the whole seaside beach, right, this whole beach, let's say, and they put all these chaiselongs or whatever you call them, those seats that you can sit, and you can only sit on the beach if you rent one of those for like $50 for the whole day. But it's like, what the fuck, I mean, the beach should be a free space, okay? You can actually stay outside of those, but it's like the whole beach is full of those now. It's like as much as you can see around, there's only chaiselongs, okay? It's like you kind of have to rent one because you're gonna stay in between people who already rent one. And Romania is a country where the salaries are in between 300 to 400 euros. If you're lucky, you can get 600 or a bit more, but those you actually have to work a lot. And in order to find yourself a job, in most situations you actually have to pay for that. In some situations, not all, but and there's a lot of nepotism or whatever it's called, when you always bring in your family, your your wife, your children, instead of anyone else. And especially in this southeastern part, because so many people don't know literally anything to do, and they're just amassing themselves, and their relatives in any company that they can, so that they just get a salary, constantly pray that everything is good, so that they hit pension, and they can simply sit back and relax, like much of what they've been doing the whole life. So yeah, that's kind of it. And people have been to the seaside and said, hey, you know what, even chaiselongs have been distanced, okay? There have been so fewer numbers of people, okay, in there, and even the local people who rented those things said it's like more than 60% loss of money for them. But in a way I can't feel bad for them, because they're like almost illegally gaining the money, but well, they are actually supported legally because the town hall kind of agreed to that, and I'm sure they're also paying the town hall some money. I really don't want to dive too much into this, okay, but it's kind of stupid, so that you fill the whole beach with chaiselongs and you have to rent them. You can actually sit by them, okay, it's not necessarily enforced, but it's like Why not sit on the sand? Like I come to the seaside to sit on the sand. I don't want to sit on plastic. I already do that when I sit on a chair at work. Like, okay. So all this being said, hopefully you like this type of video. Feel free to really share this one so that everyone sees it. Feel free to share it on your social media and such so that people can understand. And you know, most likely this happens in most other countries. And well, all this being said, take care. I'm sure the numbers are much smaller. People say they are much higher, but I simply can't agree to this. Romania is a country that is very poor. We eat very unhealthily, and unhealthy food is not making a good environment for the coronavirus. How do I know that? Well, introspection gives you a lot of answers. Sure, many people will disregard this because they're slaves of science, but well, I didn't come here to believe science. Science is just a tool of the society to keep you away from your own self. If you understand the fact that the body is a whole system and you just start reading about it, you know. But you see how many people are, instead of actually playing the game, right, and becoming better at it by, you know, playing it and testing things out, they just prefer reading guides and, you know, asking other players or watching how other players play. That's not how you learn the game. Sure, you can learn a few tricks or two, but that's not how you learn a game. Now, all these being said, hopefully you like this type of video. Feel free again to like and subscribe. Feel free to share this. I really urge you to share this so that people get to know more and more about the truth regarding this issue. You are loved and appreciated. Take care, become more introspective, and you will see that in time reality will become, well, much more plausible for yourself instead of just listening to the news and whatever other people want you to know. All this considered, take care, love yourself more, be ready for some tougher times as well also. And well, again, Ferenc on board signing out.